LinkedIn presents.
In order to experience great sex, you have to journey back into the body and attune to its cues. Only then will your arousal and desire align, and will you be able to attune to your partner and experience the full spectrum of pleasure during sex.
What's up, people? My name is Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, the show that makes smart people smarter by offering quick summaries of the most interesting new books written and read to you by the authors themselves. Now, to wrap things up this week, we thought we'd get a little spicy and talk about sex. Not just any sex, mind you, but great sex, which you deserve to be having, according to relationship therapist Dr. Emily Jamea, who's written a new book called Anatomy of Desire: 5 Secrets to Create Connection and Cultivate Passion. In the book, Emily dives into the science of flow to reveal how couples can create incredible intimacy that only gets better with time. From re-inhabiting your body to the surprising role of emotional vulnerability, these insights offer a roadmap to sex that's as thrilling as it is deeply satisfying. Here's Emily.
Great sex matters, and it's something we are all capable of experiencing. We have an abundant amount of research to suggest that people who feel sexually satisfied are happier in their relationships and experience lower rates of depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. They also feel their lives are more meaningful and are more physically healthy. And yet, sexual desire is something that many people struggle to tap into. I began paying closer attention to the language my clients were using to describe the sex they wanted. It wasn't just more frequent sex they wanted, it was better quality sex. Words and phrases like, I want to feel lost in the moment, I want the world around me to disappear, and I want to experience the sense of effortlessness and ease I felt during the honeymoon phase. I realized that they were using words that describe a flow state. Flow state is a term that was coined by American-Hungarian psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It describes the state of mind we get into when we are so fully absorbed in an activity that we experience a loss of space and time, total focus, and a sense of unity and merger. Think of a surfer who describes being at one with the wave. Csikszentmihalyi identified 8 core components of flow: loss of self-consciousness, complete concentration, balance between challenge and skills, intrinsic reward, a sense of effortlessness and ease, clear goals with immediate feedback, a sense of control and surrender, and an altered perception of time. It made sense that these are feelings my clients wanted to experience during sex. So I turned to the academic literature to see what I could find on the relationship between flow state and great sex, but came up completely blank. And so I initiated my own research study. In support of my hypothesis, I found that people who experienced a flow state during sex were significantly more sexually satisfied. I called my research participants with the highest scores to learn more about what they did to get into a state of flow during sex. Several themes emerged. What was so exciting, though, about each secret is that each is innate within all of us. Tapping into them is therefore not a matter of looking outside oneself or becoming someone we're not. It's a matter of reconnecting with parts of ourselves that already exist within. Learning to re-inhabit the body is one of the simplest yet profound ways to immerse oneself in a sexual experience. Many of my clients complain of being unable to quiet the mind enough to fully focus on a sexual experience. So, what does it mean to be a sensual lover? Sensuality is essentially the idea that we are deeply in touch with each of the 5 senses. Living a sensual life gives us the opportunity to fully inhabit our bodies. If you live a typical 21st century life, chances are you don't spend much time in your body. Not only do we overcommit, which results in us being more human doings than human beings, we also multitask more than ever before. It's not realistic to expect to go from split attention all day long to the singular act of sex. Mindfulness techniques offer a good first step, but my research participants took it a step further. Mindfulness teaches us to be aware of the body, but people who are fully immersed in the five senses are aware as the body. This very minor change in preposition packs a major punch. Our bodies are such a vital source of information, but unfortunately, many of us have stopped paying attention to our own internal experience. In order to experience great sex, you have to journey back into the body and attune to its cues. Only then will your arousal and desire align, and will you be able to attune to your partner and experience the full spectrum of pleasure during sex. On an individual level, you can try single tasking as much as possible. It's not realistic to go from doing 5 things at once all day long to the singular act of sex. On a relational level, we need to touch our partners more often in between sexual experiences. Doing so helps prime the pleasure pathways. All of this will make it easier to tap into the flow component of complete concentration, which is essential to experience a state of flow during sex.
Have you been feeling the effects of stress, burnout, or anxiety at work? Listen to the Anxious Achiever podcast to rethink the relationship between your career and your mental health. Get the Anxious Achiever wherever you find your podcasts, and walk away with practical advice you can implement today.
Having a curious, open mind is another theme that emerged among my research participants. People who have great sex challenge the ideas, beliefs, and values that they may have internalized from their society, culture, religion, and upbringing. My clients often discover that society chips away at what is considered quote-unquote normal when it comes to sex, significantly narrowing the spectrum of what they feel comfortable enjoying. My research participants, on the other hand, weren't afraid to challenge sexual and relationship norms to explore what really fit for them as unique individuals. Curiosity is an important personal quality. People who are curious feel their lives are more meaningful and have more intimate relationships. Being curious keeps us feeling alive, vibrant, and dynamic, all important feelings that translate directly into the bedroom. What was interesting in my research was that maintaining a sense of curiosity outside the bedroom fostered energy and newness into people's sex lives without necessarily trying anything new. In fact, according to research on self-expansion, couples who try new things together experience huge boosts in desire and sexual satisfaction. One study found that couples who tried new things like shucking an oyster for the first time were 36 times more likely to have sex that day. The point being that it's not always about trying out the latest sex kink. It is, at times, more about an intangible, energetic shift that creates such an exciting intensity, even in long-term relationships. Curiosity sets people up to experience one of the most surefire ways to experience flow, a phenomenon known as the challenge skills ratio. Think about it like this. When the challenge of what you're doing is too far above your skill set, you'll feel anxious. If it's too far below, you'll feel bored. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They fall into the same monotonous routine, and it's no wonder they lose interest in sex. Novelty is important, but it doesn't have to feel overwhelming. In fact, research on flow finds that people can experience a state of flow when the challenge of what they are doing is just 4% greater than their skill set. People in my research study described how at times it was the smaller, more subtle changes that yielded the most profound intensity in the bedroom. It's about striking the right balance between that which is familiar and that which is new. None of the other secrets matter if you can't be emotionally vulnerable with your partner. Another research study I conducted examined the relationship between sensuality and curiosity with sexual satisfaction. I found that people who scored high on the sensuality and curiosity measures reported higher levels of sexual satisfaction. No surprise there. But there was a caveat. It didn't matter how high their numbers were on those assessments. If they were in a relationship in which they felt they could not open up emotionally to their partner, their sexual satisfaction scores plummeted. This tells us that the emotional connection we share with our partners sets an important foundation. A lot of people use intimacy as a euphemism for sex, when intimacy is the one thing that sex lacks. A lot of my clients are eager to try new things to spice up their sex life, but many cower when I suggest looking into each other's eyes when they make love. Reducing sex down to a juxtaposition of body parts eliminates one of the main components that makes human sex so wonderful: emotional connection. The research participants I spoke with who had optimal sex saw sex as an opportunity for physical pleasure, emotional connection, and they were also vulnerable enough to see it as an opportunity for self-expression. Their partner was safe enough to create a space in which they could tap into parts of themselves or their psyche they might otherwise not explore. The flow element that shows up alongside vulnerability is called the paradox of control. A lot of my clients complain of being unable to surrender to the sexual experience, which makes total immersion impossible. A lot of people think of surrender and control as being complete opposites, but in fact, surrender is not possible if you're not also in control. Imagine doing something like skiing. You can't surrender to the exhilaration of flying down a mountain if you're not also in control of your skis. The same concept applies to sex and relationships. Oftentimes, people cannot surrender because there's not enough emotional safety or control in the relationship. And I don't mean control in a controlling way, but more about emotional safety in the relationship. Learning to establish more emotional vulnerability provides a springboard from which couples can surrender and explore during sex.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, everyone, I hope these tips set you up for a great weekend. If you got something out of today's show, please leave us a rating or review to help others find it. And remember, if you want to get a jump on your holiday gifts, how about giving a membership to the Next Big Idea Club? We'll send out the best nonfiction books of the year as chosen by our curators, Malcolm Gladwell, Adam Grant, Susan Cain, and Daniel Pink. We also offer beautiful audio and video masterclasses, live events, and other goodies. Check it all out at nextbigideaclub.com and use the code DAILY50 for an incredible half-off discount. That's nextbigideaclub.com and use the code DAILY50. This week's episodes were written by me, Michael Kovnat, and edited by Caleb Bissinger. The Next Big Idea Daily is part of the LinkedIn Podcast Network. We'll see you Monday.